Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Late for the Party on Anchor FM. I'm your host, Melodious. Yes, I am back. I'm going to take care of a lot of things that I said I was going to speak on, but I will get to that shortly. But I wanted to get into an In My Mind segment about Dr. Cosby's sentencing, his sentence, and his term, and also about Miss Amber Rose. Now, this is going to be crazy to talk about this because honestly, because there's so many things that was going on that I feel that, a lot of people are misconstruing on everything that's going on, but with the whole scenario with this. But my thing is that because even back then I've heard that Dr. Cosby has always been like talking about Quaaludes, Spanish Fly and all that stuff. I've heard about this even when I was a kid. So, but there's a lot of things that he was on trial for not rape, but he was trialed for sexual assault. So, and it was wrong. Don't get me wrong. It's completely wrong for what he did. And the sad part is, it's just sad because not only that he's done so much for students, for black colleges, and everything else. For even doing this situation tarnishes that reputation that he's done. But there's a lot at fault with not just him, but for the folks involved, for the people who might be involved in it. Because my thing is, it's like, for anybody to say that, like, for instance, like, I think Eddie Griffin said it best in the Vlad TV interview before. Like, this is the stuff that was going on was in the 70s. So you're at the club, most of these folks would be at like Studio 54 or anything like that, or like somewhere in Hollywood or anything like that, and they would have like freaking little spoons in their necklace with like Coke already set up and ready to go, and then you got that line sitting there waiting for you at the club at your table, and then boom, insert the vacuum, But then also, in order to balance that out, you hit that you put a Quaalude in your drink, and then boom, you're good to go. But and the sad part is too, like, from what people understand, like, yeah, it's a two-way street. 9 out of 10 times, yeah, this is Bill Cosby at this time, like, he's on top of his game. He's a famous man. Like, he talks about his comedies. Like, everybody knows that he's a married man. So, and if you know that he's a married man, why would any person talk to anybody who's go to a hotel room of a married man? So it's like they already knew what they were down to do. They were down to get down. They were down for the get down. Now, I'm not saying all of them are guilty of this situation, but as time progressed, and at this time, nobody says anything, nobody does anything until here comes the Me Too movement rolling on in. Now, I'm not saying all this, there's real victims out there who are dealing with shit like this. But then look at the situation with Aziz Ansari. He didn't do anything. He just was on a bad date, and the date decided to flip the script on him and almost tarnished his reputation. I mean, in my humble opinion, and it was like, you know, we know that like Bill did this and he's fucked up for doing it, but it's like, you know, and he got tried for his for what he done. I mean, you play with fire, you get burned, and it's sad more than like, oh, justice has been served. But, you know, considering the fact that like you got real monsters out there right now who are, you know, trying to do like, who you got real monsters like Donald Trump and you know, Harvey Weinstein, who blatantly said these things that it's been done, and them fools need to be next in line. That's for real. That's how I feel about that. And on a humble, like now, on the humble, I mean, and then like Roman Polanski too, and that motherfucker jumped ship and like skipped town. Not even skipped town. This nigga skipped this damn states. He skipped the country. And, you know, of course, you know, that's beyond their jurisdiction, so that mug got lucky. He can't step foot in the United States ever again. But he's still working and everything else like that. So, I mean, you know, not to pull the race card, but, you know, they're gonna set the example for the people who've been on the street trying to uplift the, you know, black people since the dawn of time. They're gonna try to put that mark on us like that to tarnish our reputation. And unfortunately, you know, Dr. Cosby got it. Like, he, you know, fell victim to that shit because he was doing some silly shit that, honestly, on the humble, he didn't even have to do. I mean, if you that rich and you that powerful, I mean, you rich and you famous and stuff like that, why the fuck are you sitting there roofing females in general? I mean, on top of that you're fucking married, so that's making matters even worse. But then also, the parties involved also know that you're married because half of your freaking comedies and everything else consists of you talking about your marriage and your kids and stuff like that. So you gotta look at both ends of the spectrum. It's about like, you know, what they're trying to do, you know? So, but everybody who's misconstrued in the fact that, oh, he raped these women, no, he did not. He was on trial for sexual assault, not rape. Two different scenarios. So he got tried for groping, like for drugging them and groping on them while they were asleep. So while they were out. So that's bad enough. All right. So, but for sitting there, but now we're gonna talk about Amber Rose. Who the fuck does she think she is, and what kind of right does she have to sit there passing any kind of judgment on anybody? And then also sitting there wishing death on somebody. Okay, and I've read that tweet like, oh, I don't want him to die in jail. I just want him to get out and then he dies when he gets out of jail. That's fucked up. Even for a guy like me that's cold. But then here's your dirty ass. Yo dirty ass sitting there glorifying being a thought, a slut, and you're trying to do a fucking slut walk. I don't know how the hell you even got a platform. You probably sucked freaking Dr. Phil's dick and freaking his son's dick and everything else in order for you to even get your show. And I don't even know how you even got a show. I mean, the sad part is, I don't even care for Amber Rose. All I knew about Amber Rose is that one, she used to date Kanye. That fell through. She doesn't claim, like, she's obviously a black woman. I mean, she's half black and she's black, but she doesn't claim her ethnicity. But the problem is that she doesn't claim that she's black, but she's glorifying like she's basically in the culture, but you don't claim that you black though, which is sad enough because it's sad because you're basically going pretty much in most of the culture from either a show magazine, a King, or a Smooth magazine, or whatever that most black cultures read, or you in BT, MTV, whatever the hell it is, and your platform. I mean, and then also keep in mind, it's like, it's funny to me because she's sitting here talking shit, and then it's like, you're talking about somebody being accountable for your actions, their actions, but what about you? You're sitting here glorifying the fact that you're a fucking slut. And the matter of fact, the problem is, to me, you feel that ever since Kanye left you and you got with, he got with Kim Kardashian, pretty much it feels like you in the shadow of that bitch. And it's like you're doing everything you can, and you sitting there talking about empowering your inner slut, empowering you. When does being a slut become a good thing? I mean, and I hate to burst your bubble, isn't being a slut also a sexual predator? Honestly, like, you're sitting here trying to get in the pants of whoever so you can get that next big, push, and it's like, that push is going to help you build your career. Like, guess what, sweetheart? You're not Kim Kardashian. She already had money amongst her family. And, that's how, unfortunately, she got famous by fucking Ray J on a fucking, porn video. And that's how her freaking, thing got blown up. Because nobody was giving a shit about Kim Kardashian at that point. Especially, after she found, how? But, you're just in this broad shadow. And you're doing everything you can, but, okay, you had Kanye West, that failed. You got with Wiz Khalifa, you got knocked up. So now, obviously, Wiz left your ass because obviously something wasn't right. And now you're with, what, 21 Savage or whoever the fuck this guy is? So, it's like, one, your choices and what you're trying to do is all kinds of fucked up. So, I don't know, man. It's just ridiculous to me that you would shape your mouth to talk about Bill Cosby's situation, and regardless of that, you're sitting here talking about how much of a sexual predator he is, but then what about you? But from what I know, a slut or anything like that is also considered a sexual under the category of a sexual predator, because you're doing everything you can to have sex with the person who might be in power or anything else to take advantage of the situation. Which is sad because you're sitting here trying to do a fucking slut walk to empower females, feminists, and everything else about being an inner slut. So taking advantage of guys and everything else. That's fucking smart. That's sad to say, because and then you're sitting here glorifying this, but then there's girls who are little girls, are like nieces and nephews and little sisters, or anybody who, like a fifth or a high school or a junior high kid, thinking that it's a groovy idea to be that way, and then being like salute your inner, your inner slut and everything else like that. So you're glorifying being a fucking slut or a whore or whatever the fuck you want to call it, which is fucking ridiculous. But then you're sitting here talking about Bill Cosby, but then you're no different than him, because you're sitting here talking about taking advantage of that situation. And like, from how your platform is and everything else, you're not working on it in the hardest way, like grinding, opening up books. You're opening up your fucking legs. You're basically barely showing your tits and ass. You're like a living blow-up doll. You're probably sucking all kinds of dick just to get your point, like just to get to the status that you're at right now, which is sad enough. But you sitting there talking shit. You're sitting there throwing stones in a glass house while you're in the fucking house. You're in that same category that Bill Cosby's in. The only difference is you're sitting there taking advantage of the situation. Instead of drugging a dude or whatever the case may be, you're using your body and you're selling your sex in order for you to do that. So you're going to sit here talking shit about somebody else and knowing that you ain't doing no different. You're just doing, like, you may doing it in a different way, but you still in that same category though. So think about that shit, Miss Amber Rose, before you start talking about wishing death on people. And also, gotta reap what you sow, because you talking shit like that about somebody, you better hope and pray, like, the gods ain't listening to it and then something falls short on your ass. Real talk. Worst come to worst, you better recant that shit that you just said, because karma's a bitch and she will come back to hit you tenfold. So that's the In My Mind segment about that. Man, it's so weird. That's all I want to talk about that one. I just wanted to do an In My Mind on it, because I just feel like it's sad what's going on with Bill Cosby, because like, if he did what he did, the allegation, it was all allegations. There was no like full-blown proof, even though he opened his mouth up wide enough to where he got caught up and, justice has been served. But it's just sad, because the reputation that he was trying to do for black folks, and especially for black kids, for going to college and everything else, all of that now is now tarnished. And that's a mark on his record with that, It's sad. But either way, like I said, this has been an In My Mind segment. I wanted to talk about it because I felt like it just needed to be said. But either way, this is Melodious with Late for the Party signing off. And as always, never ever be late for the party. So keep the party going.